For me, I felt almost like this in the stages of grief. I felt denial and anger and disbelief all in the same second. And it was like everything was going fast forward and slow motion at the same time.
Biggest and only indicator really to know whether it worked, whether it's going to continue to work, just a monitoring system. So every 3 months, if he makes it that long for 2 years, then we can go every 6 months for another 2 years. And then they'll track it every year.
We tried for 5 years to become pregnant with Charlotte. We were so happy to become pregnant. We went on a little weekend baby moon, we called it. And the next day is when we found out that there was something wrong with Charlotte.
We are Mike and Scottisha Shaw, and our daughter is Genesis Shaw, and Genesis was diagnosed with stage 4 Wilms tumor, which is a kidney cancer.
And she's 7 years old.
I'm Sarah Hines. This is Brody, my son. We found out about his brain tumor in August of 2014. He's 12 years old right now.
I'm Carly Kavanaugh.
I'm Chris Kavanaugh. Our daughter's name is Charlotte Marie Kavanaugh. She was born December 28, 2017.
Charlotte, you're very interested in your dad, huh?
Her original diagnosis was spina bifida. Doctors refer to it as a
Myelomeningocele.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. And she had a repair on the back of her spine in utero now her diagnosis now is renal failure.
So as we're sitting in emergency, we're there now for about 3-4 hours. And the 2 doctors we had saw those 2 or 3 hours, they both came in at the same time. She looks at just us both calmly. She says, "Looks like cancer." And Genesis pops up. Scottisha looks at me, I look at her. And in that moment, it felt like all the air left out of the room.
He said that the progression that it seemed like it was something viral going on and that it should be about done. And then that afternoon I came home from work and he projectile vomited across the room. I'm like, this is not a virus. So I called everyone I could think of and somebody finally said, just go to the emergency room. I'm like, okay, that was the validation I was looking for. So when we went to the emergency room, they did a CAT scan. I had the most attentive doctoring service you can possibly imagine. You never see the doctor usually, but he was like by our bedside immediately. Because he came in and said that he had a mass in the back of his head.
From there, we realized that she had spina bifida, and we didn't know to what degree, what that would look like for her. And for me, that was probably the scariest time because there was so much uncertainty and so much unknown. We didn't know if she would live. We didn't know if I would be able to continue to carry her because she might die in utero. And we were both really devastated. Yeah, it was intense.
We had to relocate from Hornell, New York to Philadelphia for the remainder of Carly's pregnancy until Charlotte was born. So, I mean, our total time in Philadelphia away from home was 4 months, with 1 month of it of when Charlotte was born.
That was just before she was born. She's not born yet.
Yeah, we're speaking before she's born.
Yeah.
They were told that Charlotte wouldn't live, that she would be born via C-section. We planned her C-section date at 34 weeks, which was December 28th. And we brought 3 days worth of clothes with us to the hospital because Carly would be, admitted after the C-section for 3 days. We brought blankets for Charlotte to wrap her up in because we were told she wouldn't live. We planned
a few outfits, just maybe we'd dress her.
We were asked if we would allow them to have an autopsy, do an autopsy to figure out why this happened to Charlotte. Why was she born with spina bifida? Why did her kidney shut down? They're trying to see if maybe they did something wrong in the surgery, so we allowed that. We planned to have her cremated. So we went into this. You have to get your mind ready, because you just have to be ready.
But we
But
never
at the same
lost
time,
hope.
we never gave up. We went in there and we stared at each other in the eyes while they were performing the C-section, and we were optimistic, realistic about her health conditions, but also optimistic and so excited to meet her. And we accepted that if it was 5 minutes that we would have with her, or if it was the next 50 years that we'd have with her, we were okay with either or. I walked in there and just stared at my wife's eyes. I didn't really pay attention until they held Charlotte up. They held Charlotte up, and she let out this just
Cry.
gigantic cry. And that immediately triggered the tears for Carly and I.
I thought
because
maybe
we
I
knew
made
that
it up.
We knew that was a beautiful thing, and that was a very good thing for her to cry, because that means she had some sort of lung function.
So you have a small business. We had just relocated, downsized and relocated, and we had a business move, we had school going on, and then we had the diagnosis all converge at the exact same time.
We actually found out about IACKids through a social worker at the hospital. And I think it might have been our first appointment. Actually, the day she might have mentioned it to us, the day that Genesis was diagnosed, when we went in.
Yeah, that's true.
When we got the call, I got the call, and I was sharing it with my husband, and I was honestly just completely in shock. We were just like, and literally,
it was surreal.
It was very surreal, because we were literally just discussing how we were gonna pay. I don't remember what it was. It was a major, I think it was our mortgage, and we were actually discussing like how we were gonna take care of it, and completely clueless to what we were gonna do, and received the call from IAC, and literally by the end of the day, it was, okay, this is what's gonna happen, and we're gonna take care of your monthly your bills for that month.
And I think the other thing is that what you think is not just that I see it's helping, but what happens is with everything else going on, you look up in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks have gone by, and you start to kind of get the avalanche effect where bills or expenses start to kind of pile on. And where under normal circumstances, we got our 2 week or our 30-day cycle and we pay these bills and we're gone. But when you're going through a crisis, 30 days going by is nothing.
All right, when you gonna do it?
I stopped working basically from then, because then once we found out what the treatment was and how involved it was, we were up here. We basically lived here Monday through Friday, radiations every day. So we weren't driving up for 30-minute radiation and back home like this. It's not feasible. Found out about IACKids through Jade Giese, the social worker for pediatric hematology oncology. I went to her after we found out the second time and asked her if she had anything that could possibly help us a little more with my missing income, basically. And I believe it was Neil I talked to on the phone when I was at Ronald McDonald House, and he called. And I was not really believing that this kind of help was even available. It was a long phone conversation, and I was just kind of in my head thinking, I'll believe it when I see it. They helped basically with our bills. We had to do a breakdown of how much everything cost per month and what my income was covering, and with that missing, what needed to be paid. 14 months is 16, almost 1,700 a month. It's a substantial amount.
That's kind of the path that is ahead of us now. More unknowns.
We're happy to be home.
Yeah.
We were in Philadelphia at the Children's Hospital, and I actually raised the question to our doctors about us coming home to the Gala Children's Hospital, which is an hour from our home in Hornell, New York, but we have a huge family here in Rochester. IACKids, they were already on board with us. They they just said, they're amazing. They just said, you're with us, we're not going anywhere. So I said to the doctors, I said, if Charlotte becomes stable enough, can we go home with her? A bunch of light bulbs went off and all the doctors' little brains, and next thing you know, my wife and my daughter are on a private jet, medical jet, being flown from Philadelphia to Rochester. After our initial meeting with Mario and Nino, we drove away and we both just looked at each other and smiled and said, "Oh, that's a relief," because we knew that we weren't going to lose our house, that we worked so hard to purchase and live in and remodel, and we knew that we weren't going to lose it.
Yeah.
And it helped a lot.
We can't thank you enough for the support and the generosity and the selflessness of giving to families that are in some of their darkest moments. It means the world, and it provides hope in a way that we never could have imagined.
If I could say anything to IACKids, I guess I have to go with thank you. Seems very inadequate for everything that they've done for us, but that's the basic. We couldn't have done it without them.
If we could say something to IACKids and the generous donors, it would be thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mm-hmm. You've changed our lives. You've changed Charlotte's life. We wouldn't be this far with her medically. She wouldn't be as healthy as she is right now without you. And I truly will, I'll never forget. And it's changed my life. From a donation side of things, when the smoke clears, maybe I will definitely be involved somewhere somehow with helping in the future.